Hi, everybody. Welcome to our weekly segment at FreedomProject.com, The Takeaway with Alex Newman. Alex, you've been writing some great stories. We got another one today about something we've been saying. You and I both have been traveling the country. I know your work with Sam Blumenfeld, my work on the Common Core circuit. We both have been warning for a long time that one of the primary purposes of education these days was to psychologically and socially change your children, change them behaviorally, change them politically. And now we have proof that those chickens have come home to roost.
That's right, Duke. Thanks very much for the good introduction. Basically, we've found out now a physician up in New Hampshire has kind of blown the whistle on this in the Wall Street Journal. But the teachers, under the Every Student Succeeds Act, which was signed into law by Obama but passed by Republicans, Obama called it a Christmas miracle. He couldn't believe that the Republican Congress gave him everything he wanted, put all of his education agenda into federal law. But now we know that under this illegal, unconstitutional federal law, teachers are now compiling psychological profiles of their students once a month, 72 questions, to gauge whether the propaganda, the indoctrination is sinking in, whether the children have the attitudes and values and beliefs that the government wants them to have. And so you basically have teachers practicing, psychology, psychiatry without a license, and this is being tracked over time, and of course being fed into databases that'll be shared with anybody and everybody.
Yeah, Mom and Dad, let this sink in. Every month, teachers who are utterly unqualified to assess the mental and sociological and psychological health of your kids are mandated now, required to give your kids varying lengths of questions, up to 72 questions every month for the 9 months that they're in school, over every year they're in school. And these questions have nothing to do with reading or writing or history or science. These are purely questions that monitor your kids' beliefs about diversity as one of the categories, right? Is your kid having the sufficiently political propaganda sink in the right way for him so that from first grade to third grade to fifth grade to ninth grade, they're singing the liberal mantra when it comes to affirmative action, when it comes to diversity programs? It really is shocking. And if your teachers are spending this much time every month, class to class, every course they teach, they're spending this much time on the psychological and sociological profile of your kids, how much time are they really spending on teaching the serious subjects?
That's a good question. And, we know that they're spending less and less time actually teaching anything of value in terms of knowledge, in terms of even the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And they're spending much more time on indoctrination, on propaganda, on values clarification to try to shatter children's belief in truth and objective morality and even, the Ten Commandments, a biblical worldview. And so, schools have really come full circle now. They're doing exactly what John Dewey, the founding father of this monstrosity called the government education system today, this is exactly what he wanted them doing. He said, we don't need to teach the little kids to read and to do math. We need to socialize them and make sure they understand that they're cogs in the machine. And, he really wanted to create what the Soviets called, the creation of the new Soviet man. And that's exactly what the schools appear to be doing with this latest foray into, they call it social and emotional learning, which is really just complex code words for we want to check how well the indoctrination is working on your kids.
Yeah, again, Mom, Dad, let this sink in. The primary purpose of your kids' education, from kindergarten through high school, and certainly when they get to college, is not to prepare them for careers. It's not to prepare them for to become entrepreneurs, to be able to provide for their families, to find meaningful jobs that give their life purpose. No. The main priority of your public schools now is socialization and psychological evaluation. What they're doing is turning your kids into good little progressives and ignorant progressives. And there's a point here, right? To be a good capitalist, to be a good patriot, requires a high level of education. To be a good progressive requires less to none, right? Now talk about that a little bit, Alex.
Well, you're exactly right, Duke, and I think that's becoming very clear in the so-called education that the kids are getting. They've really de-emphasized any actual learning, to the point where, as we've been exploring in a lot of the Newman reports over the recent weeks, the kids can't even read. I mean, more than half of the kids in a lot of places, in states like California, literally cannot read. They're not even basic proficient in the basic dumbed down literacy standards that have been set under Common Core. So we have a problem of immense proportions. The kids can't read, they can't do math, they don't know anything about history. I was just talking to some government school kids in my family on 4th of July. They didn't even know we declared independence from Britain. They had never heard the words in the Declaration of Independence, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator." They said, "Oh, they can't say that in our school because there's a creator. We can't talk about God in the school." So the kids are not learning anything of value. They're being brainwashed, and you're absolutely right, Duke. You can even check on the United Nations website. They explain that children with higher educations consume more resources because they earn more money later in life, and therefore they're less sustainable than dumbed down, indoctrinated kids without a real education. So we've entered an entirely new paradigm now, completely different than what the founders of this country saw as a legitimate education, and the consequences are showing. Our society is falling apart, and I think that's becoming more clear by the day.
It seems to be a progressive educator's dream. Take first world kids, give them third world education, make them utterly dependent upon centralized government, where a very small group of people have the education, right? Very small group of people will be in charge of running the lives of these people as if they were cattle, so that they don't eat too much, they don't drink too much, they don't work too much, they don't make too much. Not too much freedom at all for these people, right? Keep them on the farm, keep them on their little sectional Agenda 21 housing units, their little cubes, right? This is what's coming. I mean, it used to be a punchline. It used to be a joke, Alex. But all of this is serious. And final word from you. Remind Mom and Dad again, Mom and Dad America, how it was the Republicans that gave this power over social and emotional learning, gave this power to the schools via the ESSA Act.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Duke, and it's so important for people to understand. This was actually a bill led by Republicans, and they admitted later, Lamar Alexander in the Senate, and some of the House leaders, including Paul Ryan, right? They admitted later that they had been conspiring with the White House on this abomination. But it's called the Every Student Succeeds Act. It's basically the next phase in the dumbing down. It authorizes all kinds of funding for these full-service community learning centers. They're basically turning the schools into replacement parents. They're going to look after your kids' mental health, their physical health, their dentistry, what they're learning, all of it. And this was all, again, passed by the Republicans. Obama's education secretary later came out and said, "I couldn't believe that they actually did this. They put every element of our education agenda into federal law for the first time in history." So, this was the work of the establishment wing of the Republican Party. They stabbed their voters in the back. They told the voters they were going to get rid of Common Core. Instead, they gave us not only a solidifying of Common Core and institutionalizing it across the nation by allowing the Secretary of Education to decide what standards are okay and which are not, but they've also added all these new components to basically shift the focus of schools to social and emotional learning and expand all these unconstitutional programs. So we are in a whole heap of trouble here, and we can't just blame Obama. The Republicans are partially to blame as well.
Thanks, Alex. I urge everybody out there, especially if you've got kids or grandkids, come to FreedomProject.com, look at all of our educational resources, including the Newman Report, and we'll see you next week, Alex. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, dude.
If you enjoyed this video and all of our videos, please consider a tax-deductible donation so we can keep the whole thing free for you. I'm Dr. Duke. Thanks for watching.